Metro District family, welcome. This is not a podcast, but we are recording in our new recording studio here at the district office. So super excited for you to watch this video. We've got this one, we've got a full length thing that we want to do, on this, and I'll explain, why. And then we'll get small snippets, for you to be able to enjoy. But today, joining me is Sarah Mol. Sarah Mol is actually our district's first CAMA international worker. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
It's exciting to have you here.
Good to be here.
You were just appointed in October, correct? This past October. So Sarah's gone through her interviews. She's been appointed by our Christian and Missionary Alliance Board of Directors this past October, and she's actually getting ready to launch this coming summer, again, as our first CAMA worker. So Sarah, really excited to, be able to kind of share this time together, share with the district about the things that are happening in your life. Talk to us about yourself. Talk to us about your background, where you grew up, how you came to faith in Jesus, all that fun stuff.
Sure. So I grew up in South Jersey and went to church my whole life. Went to the Alliance Church, Trinity Alliance Church in South Jersey. And so went to a Christian school. So it's very part of my life from day one. And I got saved early, around 4 or 5 years old, just one night before going to bed, pray with my mom, and I got saved. And so it's been very much a part of my life, and I think it became very real as I got older, probably in college when I really had some different things I was struggling with and really called out to God and I needed his help. And there's a lot of details I can go into that, but we won't necessarily go as deep as that right now. But I think, growing up, if someone were to ask you the question, do you need God? You're like, of course I need God. But then when you're really in it and you're in this place of Lord, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And, and he's there for you, that you're then it becomes more of a real faith and a real relationship, as opposed to what I've done, every Sunday, every Wednesday, every day at school. Mm-hmm. Making more of a personal relationship.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously everybody knows the secret's out, right? First, international worker, first international worker representing CAMA, representing this district. But this is not your only time doing actual missions with the Alliance,
right?
As my understanding.
Yes.
Can you tell us just a bit about your story with missions?
Sure. So my first experience with missions was I actually went to a missions trip right out of college to El Salvador. And so that was the youth pastor at the time asked me if I wanted to go. And so I went, and that kind of felt really very much like a one-time thing. It wasn't something, I didn't feel called to missions. And in fact, I would go to life conferences and I would go to different, Lake Champion and various different things. And if they said, who feels called to missions? I never even had a twinge in my heart of that's me. I should raise my hand. And so out of college, I had my degree in education, and my older sister, and this is not with the Alliance, this is a different organization, but my sister reached out to me and said, these people came to our church, they teach all over the world. I think this would be perfect for you. And honestly, it didn't feel perfect for me because I had finished teaching. I didn't feel called to teaching anymore, didn't feel called to missions, didn't feel called to go overseas, didn't feel called to any of it. But I was kind of in a place of I don't really know what the next step is. And sometimes you're well, someone thought of me, so let me just pursue this. It's going to be a no, and then I can tell her, hey, it didn't work out.
Right. I did my due diligence,
exactly.
But...
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, sister, but I did it. They said, no, thank you. And for me, it's another closed door because it kind of felt like that's kind of what was happening. Mm. And so then I applied, and all along the way, I prayed, Lord, if this is what you have for me, I'll go. But it kind of felt like an empty promise because I didn't think it was going to happen. And so after each interview, before each interview, I said, Lord, if I get the job, I'll go. And then after the final interview, I was working in the hospital at the time as a secretary, and I got the email saying, dear Sarah, I'd like to offer you the kindergarten position in Pyeongtaek, South Korea. And I was like, oh no, this is the first, you said you'd go, are you going to do it?
Yeah. Wow, wow.
And so I removed myself from the desk, went in supply closet and started crying because it really was this thing of, you said you do it, are you going to do it? And it was never I'm not going to, because I had promised that I'd do it. But it was this this is something I do not want to do, And I went to pre-field orientation, and while we were there, we found out we couldn't get the visas for Korea for whatever reason, and there was a need in Venezuela to teach first grade. And I knew like at that point, I'm like, Lord didn't bring me this far to be like, just kidding, you know. And so I interviewed at pre-field orientation for Venezuela and got offered the job there. And so then I went back to South Jersey in July, and then flew out to Venezuela August 5th, 2009.
Wow.
So, and that was something where those 3 years were probably some of the hardest years, but also some of the best. Like there was such growth and such, I grew so much closer to God during that time. And during that time too, there was definite times of, Lord, you called me here, but this is hard. So I really need your help. But I was able to do things like I was teaching, but I was able to mentor. I was able to lead a small group. I helped out with youth group. I helped coach basketball. Like, so there's all these different things that were very life-giving, even though the teaching part was still hard but you know, and that continued to develop my heart for children and youth. Like it was during that time that I still was a pull for that. And then from Venezuela, this is where the alliance comes in. I worked at Blackforest Academy in Germany under the umbrella of Marketplace Ministries. And so I was there for 4.5 years doing various different jobs there. So, and then I moved back in 2017. And I started getting my degree in counseling before I moved to Venezuela, but put a pause on that. So when I moved back in 2017, I got my degree, got my license, and then once I got my license, then I applied for
CAMA. Yeah. But so let's take one step back.
Yeah.
So, you know, Blackforest Academy, it comes to an end, it comes to a close. You did your term there or whatever, fulfilled your obligation, you came back. Yeah. Was there a thought in your mind of like, hey, I'm coming back to learn, or to get my license, and then I'm going to relaunch back out? Was that a thought in your mind that this is something that you're going to re-pursue?
I think ever since Venezuela, I had a heart for Latin America. That piece was there. It like developed there. It was kind of like, there was always a kind of like a hope of like, I hope I get to go back at some point. You know what I mean? Like, even though Germany was wonderful and it was great and there was a lot of things, but there was still a pull towards like Central South America that was like, I was there and it was just like, it did something to my heart, And so even when I moved back to the States, there was always a piece of like, kind of like a pull to go back into missions, and I didn't know in what capacity, in what way, but I always knew I wanted like in helping people and with counseling. And so I knew like I had to get the degree and the credentials to be able to do it, because both in Venezuela and Germany, I was very much like doing a lot of different things, and none of the roles fit perfectly. Like a lot of the other things as far as like, the mentoring, the coaching, the small groups, all of those things were the things that I really like loved. And that was where my heart was. But the roles themselves were like kind of what kept me there. Yeah. And so in moving back, it was like, I would love to go back overseas and go into missions again, but I needed an avenue to do so where it was more of a fit. Yeah. Yeah. So you get your degree, you get your license, right? And you and I talked February of 25? Yeah. Okay. February 25 is when I first met you. Walk us through that process. You and I get a phone call and I connect you with the Ramseys. What starts to unfold then? So yeah, when we had talked in February and you said like, you mentioned Lisa and how she was a counselor, there was just something to me. I was like, oh, she's going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, people get it, but it's like I was like, it's going to be great. And we connected. And yeah, we just talked and it was wonderful. And there wasn't necessarily a location as of yet. It was more of CAMA and the degree and the license and all that stuff. And so it was kind of like, yes, unknown place to be determined, And so, so I mean, I met with them, and just everyone I met with, they just kind of grew the excitement, because you kind of go into the first like meeting, like you said, we never met. And I'm like, I don't know what to expect, because you just never know. And I would say every meeting that I had, the excitement grew, and it was like, you felt like people were on your team from day one. Like they wanted you to succeed. They wanted you to be part of the team, and everyone was excited, and so you felt like part of this community that you like didn't know yet, but you're excited, and so that was such a huge blessing to meet with everyone and just feel like, yep, like they wanted you to be part of it. If it was God's plan, but it was like, they were like, yes, let's get to know you. Tell me about yourself. here's some possible opportunities and stuff. And so that's pretty great. Like, just, it's nice to be like, when people meet you, be like, great, we want you to be part of this. Because sometimes you feel like you have to prove things, and that wasn't part of it. I mean, the interview process, you kind of had to answer a lot of questions and stuff. There is those things, but like the meetings were like lovely,
Yeah, that's great.
So,
last time we got together, which was just a few weeks ago, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, second call dinner that we were hosting. When I introduced you, I was like, hey, we don't know, where Sarah's ultimately going to land, and, kind of introduced you. And then you came up and you were like, actually, we do. We have more clarity on what's next. So talk to us about like what's coming down the pike for you.
Okay. So the plan is August to go to language school in Costa Rica for a year. Because although I lived in Venezuela, my Spanish is not great. And so to do language school first, and then from there go to El Salvador and work with the youth there.
So why El Salvador in particular?
Yeah. So
which is kind of crazy that you, like, this is an initial part of your story, right?
That's I mean, yes, it's such an amazing thing where you look back and, these things that seem like just nothingness. Like, you're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this thing. I have my passport. I'll go and do that. And you look back and you see God's hand and like all the different things of, it's like, well, in 20 something years, you're gonna look back and be like, wow, that was really cool. And in the meantime, you go there for a week, 10 days, and it was an amazing experience, but there was no like, I think I want to come back here someday, but to look back and just kind of see how all of your yeses led to this yes.
Yeah.
And so El Salvador, because there's a need for counseling for the youth there. 2019, there was a new ruler elected, and because El Salvador was one of the most dangerous countries in the world, he really wanted to try and make it not be that, and so really cut down on a lot of the gang population. And I believe in 2022, there was roughly 100,000 people that were incarcerated that were somehow connected to gangs. And so it went from being one of the most dangerous countries in the world to one of the safest in the Western Hemisphere, which sounds great if that's the only thing you're looking at. But the thing is how did that impact kids? Because for so many of them, their parent or parents were now incarcerated. And so, a lot of kids, like the oldest sibling, had to then drop out of school to find some kind of work to be able to provide for their siblings. In a lot of ways, it's called kind of like silent crisis, because it's this thing where if you only know numbers and stuff, you're like, that sounds great, now it's safe, but there's different stats and stuff, but somewhere between 40 and 60,000 kids are now like missing a parent or parents, and so there's this grief that goes with that too, because they may or may not ever see their parents again, and so there is a team that's down there now, but when they found out there was someone that was a counselor looking to come to Central South America, they're like, we've got so many kids that have gone through trauma that we could really use a counselor there, And so even if you think about just that it was such a dangerous country to live in before that, like regardless, like there's trauma connected to that too, and a lack of safety and just the things that they've seen. So you have that trauma, then you have the trauma of your parents being taken away and you may or may not ever see them again. And, and so it's just, multiple layers of trauma and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm even thinking about like just a cycle, right? When it comes to poverty, you're talking about the oldest or, maybe multiple kids impacted. They now can't get the education they were going for. How do they then break that cycle, right? How do they come out of that and the impact that can have? So maybe in a temporary sense, yes. I mean, obviously safety for people, like it's important, right? Like it is important, but there may be a pause on that. But what happens when these young people become adults, didn't have the opportunities, couldn't take advantage of the opportunities that might have been available to them.
Right.
And now what happens, right? What was temporarily safe, maybe, it's a different kind of thing happening. So interesting. That's interesting. How can our district come alongside you?
I mean, the biggest need right now probably is with support, like financial support. As of yesterday, March, what's today's date? The 12th, March 12th. March 12th, I checked. I still need roughly like $1,735 a month. So we're
$1,900. Okay, 35. Yep. Okay.
And then the one time is still in the around 20,000. So there's still a big need before August. And so.
Only, to be fair, you also only just got like the green light to start moving in this way, and so God's obviously moving.
Yes.
But we have somewhere to go. We're moving, but we've got somewhere to go.
Right. And I have shared at 2 churches so far. I shared at my church, Awaken Community, and then at a church I grew up going to. So, so I have shared, and I've sent the first update letter out and stuff. So we're doing things, but there's still work to be done.
Yeah. We're really excited. Again, as a district, we want to be able to support you, come alongside you, pray for you. Obviously, you're always going to be a part of our now like international worker team, the wider team, constantly keeping tabs. I would say Metro family, like if you're looking to connect with Sarah, then reach out to me, reach out to missions@metrocma.org, and we would be happy to get you in contact with Sarah. If you're a lead pastor or a missions mobilizer at your church, missions pastor at your church, and this has stirred something in you and you'd love to hear from Sarah, then we would love to get you connected with her. Obviously, Metro fam, the need. We'd love to get a few more churches partnered alongside with you, help close that gap. And, come August, see you land in Costa Rica and learning the language. And then obviously, bringing the hope of Jesus to those young people in El Salvador. So, Sarah, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to further share to our Metro family? And
well, first, just want to say thank you. This is an amazing opportunity. And like I said, I felt nothing but support from day one, and so it's been such a blessing to already feel such a part of the district. And that's been wonderful. I appreciate your prayers, both in the now and in the future. I am, still working full time, have full caseload, all the things. So there's a lot of moving parts. And so prayers definitely appreciated. And if financial support isn't something that is doable right now, definitely please pray. And if you want to be part of receive the update letters and stuff, you can, there'll be a link in the bio, I believe.
Yeah. So we're going to drop a link, either her email or a way to be able to connect for her newsletter. So you'll definitely get all that information in the link in the bio for the video. So Metro family, what's up. Sarah Mol, first CAMA international worker. I've been praying for this. The thing I wanted to mention, there's a few things. Number one, if you're a counselor and this has stirred your heart and you're like, well, I did a counseling degree, surely God's never going to use me to go overseas. I mean, Sarah's proof that yes, we would love to have you. And there's already a team, that would be willing to come alongside you. So that's number one. If you're getting a stirring, definitely reach out to our office. We want to be able to connect you, with the right people and get you moving in the right way. Number two, if it's not counseling, but you're thinking to yourself, I'm not a counselor, but I do have this expertise. I am a professional in this way. Reach out to our office. Sarah was just able to, be present for one of our second call dinners that we had, hosted by Main Street Alliance Church. Shout out to you guys. And what we're talking there is there's people that have expertise. They've owned a business. They've been practicing in the marketplace. And now there's a sense that God wants to use this to be able to bring, what I have gained here, bring it overseas. We'd love to be able to talk with you as well and see you mobilized in that. So Metro family, thanks so much for joining us. God bless you all. Sarah, thank you so much. We're really encouraged by your story and we are definitely praying for you.
Thank you so much.
All righty. See ya. Peace.